Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Primal Chaos here. Actually, I probably should be saying hola because this time we're doing the warning, as we all know now. The warning is from Monterrey, Mexico, so a little bit of Spanish. But listen, these guys I didn't know existed prior to a couple of weeks ago. So this is very interesting. It's exciting for me when a band drops something brand new and I get to look at it. Mostly because a lot of times the idea of this channel is I'm being exposed to a lot of sort of metal music typically, but not always. In this case, this is more sort of a stadium rock sort of aesthetic, right? But normally I'm at the mercy of the comments, right? I'll just pick a song and I'll do it, and then they'll be like, oh, you really need to check out X or Y. And it could be an old song, it could be something from a seminal album, it could be something new. And I'm never really sure where they land. And part of what I have to do is try and figure out in situ, like, oh, this must be one of their classic songs, or this is probably something off, because I try not to spoil anything and have too much in the way of like background. But in this case, I happen to know this is a brand new song, only dropped the other day, and I believe the footage is probably taken from when they supported the Foo Fighters, which we're gonna have to talk about at some point as well. Just a few weeks ago or a week ago or something like that. So it's a really quick turnaround for this. But I'm suspecting that this is a studio track with video cut together from their live performance or performances with the Foo Fighters as a support. So yeah, I'm really keen to see this because I think so far I haven't done any of their live stuff. I've done 3 music videos. And it'd be interesting to see how they go. Particularly, I suspect this is going to be in front of a big crowd too. Anyway, for those of you who are new, I'm Primal Chaos. Typically what I do with my reactions is I try to add a little bit of extra value by talking about, songwriting, composition, that sort of stuff, production as well. And so, I'll pause throughout the performance a little bit, and then there'll be a small break, and then I'll come back and do a bit of a summary. So stick around to the end and you hear my final thoughts on it. But anyway, let's just jump straight in. The warning, money, official performance video. Oh, by the way, I've got the video preview. I've reduced the opacity because these tend to get blocked. So just bear with me on that one. Here we go. Cash register. That's cool. Okay, before we get too far into it, this is the second verse, I suspect anyway. That's weird. There's not so much there that's a real functioning chorus. It's kind of like got the whoa, whoa sort of section, which is repeating, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's an interesting structure is what I'm getting at. It's kind of cool. I love that they got the little cash register element there, ka-ching, right on the first beat of both of the verses now. And yeah, like what strikes me from their live performance, and I know that this isn't as upbeat as a lot of their songs get. This is kind of a slow groove. So it may not be a perfect example of what they really get up to on stage, but what I'm seeing is really interesting because as much as I know these guys have been around for many years now, to me, they still seem like a new band, right? But seeing them in front of this crowd so comfortable on stage with their instruments, seeing Ali just walking around, just chilling, that's kind of what I want to see from a performer, particularly with a song like this. Like there's always going to be songs in the set list that are aggressive and the ones that, have a lot of interaction with the crowd and a lot of running around sort of stuff. This song sort of sits in its own pocket and grooves, at least up until this point anyway. And they're still entertaining to watch. They don't look like a bunch of kids out of high school who are like deer in headlights, I know they're seasoned performers, but it's still, to me, they're new. So just bear that in mind. But I love how they each have their personalities, and they're in exactly the right spots for their personalities. You know, you've got Power, who's like, she's got a way of drumming where she's aggressive, like she kicks that kick like she's trying to kick it off the stage. You know what I mean? And you know, she's power hitting all of the snare hits. Danny is always, she's got that front person charisma, again, kind of aggressive, but in a different way, where she approaches it more through facial aggression and just getting into those notes and digging in with a little bit of sort of grit, you know. And then Ali is over the other side of the stage, just in her own world, just wandering around doing a thing, just sitting in the pocket. It's a really cool visual aesthetic, you know. But song wise, look, I'm really digging it so far. What I noticed, I had a quick scan of the lyrics beforehand, and I'm trying to sort of put my finger on, through watching it, what the song's about. It's obviously about the value of people and stuff like that, but I know that they've recently signed a record deal and came out of 7 months of negotiations about that deal. And this could be sort of like one of those things where it's like, we've just spent the last 7 months having a dollar value assigned to our worth, you know, or like to our creative worth, right? And I guess sometimes that can feel a little bit hollow, because these guys have been fiercely independent for many years. And so it would seem like suddenly somebody telling you, okay, your creativity is worth X amount of dollars, you know? And I don't know how that would feel as someone who considers themselves to be a true artist, whether or not they would take offense to that. You know, it's all part of the machine. They even say, you know, are you worth your weight in gold? Going once, going twice. It's all about the whole cold, hard cash, hun. But it's like, less isn't more in this business, you know? But then there's also some talk of pools of blood and diamond nooses around your throat. Like, maybe it's a little bit of animosity towards having to deal with that side of the business, the money side. But also the diamond noose around the neck kind of makes me think of, you know, is the money worth it? Like, if it turns you into somebody else, it's kind of like putting, it could weigh you down, right? The financial side of the business. And they've been pretty comfortable doing things under their own steam for so long. Suddenly now people are investing in them. They have to perform. If they don't perform, then they're not worth their value. And that's a big step for somebody who considers themselves to be an artist, right? So anyway, let's jump back in. I'm going to go back a little bit because I want to get into the second verse appropriately. Cool. What a cool song. All right. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So just hang around after the break and I'll do a full summary on the song. Hey guys, this video is made possible by Enchroma. 1 in 6 guys and 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and if that happens to be you, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description, it'll take you to Enchroma's website where you can get a free eye test, and while you're there, maybe pick up some corrective lenses. They've got styles to suit everybody and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got really nothing to lose. And while you're there, use the code CHAOS in checkout to get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. All right, we're back. Okay, so, wow, it's an interesting song, because... like, I guess they've already released a couple of tracks relatively recently that sort of show a little bit more of that anthemic power rock sort of thing that they have going on. Whereas this one's kind of like a march, right? This is like it's a whole different vibe. Like, if you notice, there's very few drum fills in there. Power's essentially just sitting in the pocket with a straight dun, ga, dun, ga sort of groove. And she's accenting the guitar and bass riffs, which are kind of doubling each other, you know, so it's just dun 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 sort of stuff rather than you know, there's zero overplaying in this song, and it sort of reminds me, it sort of harkens back to songs sort of more in the 70s, which is kind of like a little bit of these guys' aesthetic is that it's kind of like that Suzi Quatro era girl rock kind of thing. Before girl rock was a thing, they were just rock with a female. That's all it was, you know. The haircuts seem a little bit 70s. Like, it seems like there's influence there, right? I don't know. Maybe these guys are too young to even know what that means. But to me, I sort of see it. There's something about it. Even just the fact that they're using stage monitors and not in-ears and things like that. Everything about what I just saw looks like it was just pulled from like a 70s gig, if that makes any sense. Like a festival show or something. But just the way that it's like, you know, I'm trying to think, there's some songs that are sort of similar in concept. I mean, obviously there's Money by Pink Floyd or whatever, which has the cash register sample as well, you know. But just songs that are kind of, it's almost like a protest song in that it's warning you about the negativity of things like money or, you know, like the dangers of the business or getting involved with corporations and things like that. A lot of that sort of stuff came out from like the late 70s, early 80s, you know. And this has kind of that sort of flavor. Like, in a world where, you know, most people are writing songs about parties and, you know, like the best night ever, like dance EDM kind of ephemeral sort of nonsense. Writing songs that have a core weight to them, and writing music that sort of has that sort of grim sort of grind to it. Like, you know, like it sounds like a march. It sounds like troops marching in step towards the almighty dollar. You know, that's the kind of vibe. I don't know I don't know if I'm putting the idea out there the way it's appearing in my head. But maybe some of you will get what I'm saying. But, you know, these guys just, they get it. They understand that, like, sometimes you just have to play to serve the song. And I've talked about this with these guys in just about every video I've done. Are they shooting this with iPhones again? I see something that looks like a phone on a tripod over to the right-hand side of the stage. You know, they just know how to get out of their own way and just play great songs. And I think that's what's going to take these guys far. Everybody knows they can do more than what they did in this song from a technical perspective, but they shouldn't, and they didn't. And that's part of the charm of what these guys do, you know. In fact, I'm struggling to remember a single drum fill. I mean, maybe I'm just thinking about the wrong parts of the song, but there was definitely, these guys were just all in lockstep with every aspect of like the instrumentation. It's all just straight groove, kind of punchy. The best way to make something sound like it has impact and punch is when everybody hits the same note at the same time. Or, you know, like the kick drum and the bass guitar and the power chord all land exactly at the right point. And it feels like a big heavy guitar sound is punching you in the face, but it's really the sum of the parts, right? All three parts. Danny's vocals were really cool. And again, she has her own style as far as melody writing that is unique. And again, I'm wondering if it has something to do with her cultural heritage or like her education musically or what, but she chooses these really interesting melodic phrases that don't sound unnatural. They don't sound Spanish. They don't sound anything like that, they just don't sound vanilla from a Western, like English music, like American. Let's just say Americanized. I know Western is a stupid sort of way of putting that, but from an aesthetic of classic American rock, or which is what most current rock music is sort of based on. She chooses interesting melodies. Well, like she'll zig when you would expect it to zag and things like that. And that in itself is part of the charm of this band as well, because it makes them unique. I was talking about Surge today. If you're familiar with System of a Down, we were listening to one of their songs. A friend of mine said, "Do you know who this is?" And I listened for a second. I said, "Well, that sounds like System of a Down." I wasn't familiar with the song. But what makes Surge interesting is that he doesn't sing like an Americanized rock singer. Because when you stand in front of a mic with a rock band that plays traditional rock and roll, there's a way that you're supposed to sing. Now, everybody sounds different, but there's always that rock, so yeah, kind of rock voice, right? That everybody's trying to get to, and everybody, because they're physically different, they sound different, and you can pick sort of like your Eddie Vedder, for example, from like I don't know, anyone else. But it's interesting because his voice isn't affected like that, right? He sings with an open vowel sound, like a much more classical style, like, big open sort of sound, rather than a yeah kind of rock sound. And he can do those things. He does occasionally affect the voice and make like these low growls and whatnot and all his character. But by and large, he's not afraid to just sing unaffected by American rock and roll. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here with Dani. She sings in a very traditional American rock female style, but her melodies are where she sort of stands out. And that's sort of, a roundabout way of saying a lot of the color that these guys get is from her choices. And that's really cool as well. Other than that, I don't know that I got too much more to say, other than the fact that this was a cool choice. I think this was, it's a strong song. It's probably not the song that I would show to people if I wanted to wow them, as far as like, this is what these guys do, and they're out of control. I love their raw sort of punchy energy, because this song sort of trudges along. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it's just the aesthetic choice of this song is that it sort of has like a slow sort of walking pace. But based on the 3 videos I've done up till now, this was an interesting direction for me to see these guys go in. And if anything, it makes me want to see even more, because it means that they've got more character than I've seen so far. And I knew it was there, but I just haven't witnessed it yet, Yeah, so this would be one of those album tracks that I definitely wouldn't skip, And I appreciate the fact that that's something that they would focus on, because it just leans way into that rock aesthetic, So that's basically it. Thank you guys for recommending this one. I wouldn't have even known it existed had you guys not told me 1,000 times in the comments. Check out Money by The Warning. And yeah, this was really cool. I might go back and sort of check out some of their older performances next. Some of the things that sort of got them started when they were a lot younger, or maybe some key sort of moments in their history sort of prior to the last sort of 24 months, That would be really interesting. If you got any suggestions, hit me up in the comments and let me know. I'll be reading through all of those. Guys, also, we've talked about this before, but look, it's getting to the point now where, I used to love making sure that I got to every single comment and at least liked or commented on everything. But now it's getting to the point where it's just becoming a little bit too difficult. So do know that I do read them. I just don't always have time to reply and stuff like that. Thanks again. Your community engagement is what makes this channel work, so I appreciate that. As usual, if you feel like I've brightened your day at all, the best way to support the channel is just buy me a coffee. I've got a link to a PayPal donate button in my description. Other than that, just like, share, subscribe. We're almost at 7,000 subs, which just blows my mind. Who knows? Maybe by tomorrow that'll be the case. Thanks again, guys. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one.